Ladies and gentlemen of the crypto space, I pressed the live button. Here we go. Let's do this. 11:59 on a Tuesday, September 15th. We're at the middle of the month already. Crazy times. I love it. I like it. There's a lot going on. There's a big sentiment shift in the market that I'm seeing. I have adjusted accordingly. I have made changes to compensate, including turning up my air conditioning. Gotta do that. All right. Um, so the market, when you start to feel a shift, at least for myself, it's because something is happening. You have to trust your gut, and that is definitely what I'm doing this time around as compared to 2017. 2017, I didn't have the same gut. Maybe it's because I went through what happened in 2017 that I got the same or a new gut. Maybe it's because of the pizzas that I've been eating that I got this new gut. I don't know, whatever it is, but something's telling me that things are changing. So, what has changed? Change is volatility. Volatility means it's not necessarily going to go in the direction that everyone wants it to go. And I think that that's important. I like starting out with my sentiment on the market. My sentiment right now is risk off. If there is any bit of a risk off event in the altcoin space, in the broader crypto space, I've seen it. I've been around where, bam, 20%, 30%, everything is blood red, and that's when Bitcoin starts to go. Because when people are dumping, they're dumping for basically Ethereum and Bitcoin. And that'll be the start of a heck of a move, and that's basically where you start to see those Chad candles, those $1,000 Bitcoin rips to the upside. That's probably inevitable at some point. Come on with all the stuff that we've seen in the markets. So this title is Ethereum v Polkadot v Binance. Let's get into that. But here, let's go over here real quick. With this stuff, you're telling me you're not expecting to see some serious shit go down? How many green days have we seen? How many people are out of work? How many people got a shit dead-end job, dead up the wazoo, back rent, back pay, back mortgage, back car payment, back. Literally, the back of the back is backed up. That's how backed up everyone is. Everyone, this whole system is running on fumes. It's running on debt. Maybe that's the goal. That's what they want. That's the way they like it. But the problem is when the M2 supply is through the roof and the M2 velocity is imploding, these boys are going to have to do something. And that's pretty much, I think, what everyone is certain of at this point. They are going to have to do something because there is no way doing nothing is going to prevent a systemic instability and a massive risk off event. And that's not what they want for equities. They want equities to the moon. And I think some shit's going to go down sooner rather than later. When you have the presidential election coming up, and the president is very much interested in the stock market going up rather than down. So he puts a lot of pressure on folks, which is kind of awkward, being that the Federal Reserve is supposed to be completely unrelated to politics. It's supposed to be a completely separate entity, and clearly that's not the case. So there's been some shit that is unfortunate. And what does this all mean to me? I don't trust anyone. I don't trust a goddamn person. I don't trust anyone. Just bottom line. All right, so Polkadot. Let's talk about some crypto. Let's have some fun instead of being melodramatic, moody, and gloomy. So quiet in the chat. Nobody jumping in the chat today. Everyone's like silent and stuff. Got some good viewer count, but it's quiet here. Okay, everyone, you're welcome to throw some questions up. Say hi. Stay a while. Take your shoes off, your socks off, throw your feet up. Just saying. Make yourselves at home. So Ethereum versus Polkadot versus Binance. What's very important is that what we have seen in the crypto space for the last couple months is straight up Ethereum. That's all there was. That was all that was moving. That was all the insanity and all the craziness was just because of Ethereum and this DeFi uh, uh, concept, this DeFi euphoria. Um, and we've seen hints of what people have talked about with regard to interoperability. And that's with like Ren and WBTC, where you could take this UTXO chain, where you could take Bitcoin and use it, or use the money that you have in Bitcoin in these DeFi processes. But most people don't touch any of this. Most people, especially new people to the space, are just starting to hear about assets, and they're probably actually buying the tops of assets right now. They're probably getting into stuff that people are trying to squeeze a couple more percent out of um, here. So check it out. So this is where I get the most gut instinct that change is coming. Uh, Here, look at the top 24 hours. Top of the 24 hours. Sort. So is there? Where's all the DeFi? Where's all the DeFi assets? Everything has slowed down. There's a big risk off going on, but I think people are going to start to squeeze a couple more percent out of the DeFi assets. Actually, good to see Loopring up there. This, along with Syscoin, is two of the L2 solutions that are of most interest to me. But this is um, this is where the sentiment is shifting. Anyway, the overall thought was, as the sentiment is shifting, people are taking risk off of DeFi. You're going to start to see new assets start to move. And we haven't seen really where that new movement's going to come. Look, Sia Coin. We're starting to Doge. We're starting to see some old assets, some UTXO assets start to move. And that's actually a good sign. I'd really like to see, um, particularly the more important UTXO assets. Like for me, that's obviously Digibyte, Zcoin. I like for privacy. Blocknet, Syscoin. Those are probably the most important UTXO assets in my opinion. And there's clearly hundreds, and the whole point was back in 2017. That's all there was. There was the ICO craze, but that was all the inflated. That was all the icing on the cake. You had a huge amount of forks of Bitcoin, fork. You had the masternode forks over Dash, fork, and then you had the ICO icing on the cake. So this time around, the DeFi was the icing on the cake. When this all is said and done, all that value has to go somewhere. And I think it's going to go to the UTXO space. Um, I don't know when Polkadot is going to. I think we're still a little premature on value starting to head to those assets. Still very speculative. Anyway, let's hit on some narrative instead of more price action and what's going on in the markets. Let's talk about where it all is going to head in the next couple months, if not a year or two, probably beginning, middle, 2021, let's say. So Polkadot is going to take a lot of the fluff, a lot of the icing on the cake away from Ethereum. And we're going to start to see markets settle down, in my opinion. I think a lot of the volume is going to start to spread out across multiple chains, facilitated by interoperability solutions such as Ren and bridges that various projects just have. Um, Elrond has its bridge with its ERD and its EGLD assets, its native EGLD, and ERD being its ERC20. So there's no reason other ecosystem projects can't do this. Ren does it in a decentralized fashion. Someone controls the server and the smart contracts with regard to that Elrond bridge or these bridges. So they're more centralized than definitely decentralized. Like decentralized is where I want to head with the topic of conversation, talking about Polkadot versus Ethereum versus Binance. But a decentralized interoperability solution is the inevitable goal of Ren as defined in their mainnet schedule, and I think they will get there. That is what we're all betting on. We're not betting on a centralized solution. We're betting on the achievement of a decentralized interoperability solution. And that will really allow these vast ecosystems to emerge and grow, which is basically Polkadot, Ethereum, and Cosmos. And I think that we'll see what happens with Elrond. It has definitely more fanfare than stuff like Tezos nowadays, and there's absolutely nothing going on with Cardano. It's like dormant until they actually have the capacity to build an ecosystem. So I've talked about this before. I don't want to FUD Cardano too much, but it does nothing right now. Literally nothing. You can't even write a smart contract on Cardano. Anyway, so actually, I'm quite interested. If anyone will ping me on Twitter, I'm interested in the information about Ren and Cosmos. Off the top of my head, I don't know what's going on there because I know Ren works with Akala, and Akala is going to be is intent on being Polkadot parachain, which will and Akala is basically the stable coins for the Polkadot ecosystem. And that's the gateway. That's the sequence. That's the relationship between Ren, all the value and all the equity in the crypto space, which is basically Bitcoin, has like vast majority of the equity, hundreds of billions of dollars, and getting it to where it can be used to do things. The money Legos, the composability, the inputs and outputs between different smart contracts. And that's why Ethereum DeFi has been so hot because, frankly, I think it was fueled in part by, no doubt, Ethereum liquidity, billions of dollars there, but the vast majority that's actually a good question. Was it the vast majority came from WBTC and Ren BTC versus Ethereum liquidity? But that made a massive difference. So this is going to play a huge role in Polkadot and Cosmos in the future. Interoperability between blockchains and the easy passing of liquidity between the chains. Now, I don't know what the future is for Binance, Smart Chain, BSC, and Tron. You know, from a fundamental standpoint, they're kind of useless. They don't have a place in the future, and you know, they it's kind of like they're 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 best left to run their course like a virus, and then be expunged by the immune system of general consensus. Because they're not decentralized. In fact, Tron has a whitelist, so that and Binance has only so many validators, to my understanding, and that means the whole point of the crypto space is to get away from centralization, where one person or one organization or one group has a dominant control over the ecosystem. And that's about fairness. The whole point of the centralization is to achieve fairness, where everyone has the potential to contribute their voice, their choice, their opinions. Now, it can be argued that proof of work is more fair than is an intent on being more fair. And this is where I get ahead with this thought. Ethereum is proof of work. And is it decentralized? What is decentralized? There are many miners. I could set up a mining ring in my house. I've mined Ethereum personally. But there are the larger miners, and they clearly carry most of the weight. Now there's also the mining pools, which carry even more so most of the weight. So how decentralized is it? Digibyte is much more decentralized in many regards, many tangible, technical, quantitative regards, as compared to Ethereum and Bitcoin. it's not so clear cut. It's not so uh, 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 quick to say one is more decentralized than another because there's characteristics of all these chains, of all the properties that you could assess of them, uh, and they all are either more or less decentralized than the other. So Bitcoin has more nodes, but the miners, the folks, the pools mining the blocks, they're fewer as compared to Digibyte. So the more nodes are good, so the information is more decentralized, the storage, the redundancy, the copies of the blockchain are more decentralized, but the folks mining is more centralized. So this is fascinating. I think that, you know, the big reason I wanted to bring this topic up was because of Binance and what they're doing with BSC and trying to basically, uh, um, what was the term? Leech? Or they're trying to a centralized attack on at least an increasingly decentralized infrastructure. So as much as Ethereum is quite centralized as compared to other chains, it is infinitely more decentralized as compared to Binance Smart Chain, which is not decentralized at all. And that's meaningful. Listen, Binance said they wanted to roll back Bitcoin. Now they can roll back BSC. They could just roll it back if they want to. They could change the ledger. So it is not an immutable ledger. It is a mutable ledger. And they can mutate it however the hell they want. Now that doesn't seem very fair now, does it? There's no consensus. I could not contribute my opinion if I wanted or did not want that to occur. And that's the whole point with Ethereum. I can. I could turn on a miner and vote for a particular version of the core software doing the mining, and I could use that to represent my opinion. Now I couldn't do that with a centrally controlled chain that Binance operates. So I think the parasite, that's what Sushi was, a parasitic attack on Uniswap, and Binance is trying to suck liquidity and be a parasite to the Ethereum ecosystem. Um, and I think it's going to sort itself out real quick. I think. I hope. We all should hope. Um, and we've seen some instabilities. We've seen some rug pulls. Uh, I don't, you check it out on Twitter. Search for Binance Smart Chain, and you'll see some. Was it Tron? Pearl. Pearl did a rug pull, or did it? Or is it just bottoming and the bottom is falling out? I don't know. I think Tron. This is the sentiment that I have. Tron and Binance took the worst of the DeFi um, euphoria. They took and that's really bad because the worst. So it's the worst of the worst. It really took the garbage because the DeFi euphoria on Ethereum is winding down. And what are you left with? You're left with functional DeFi money Legos that are very realistic, and it's rational to think that they are meaningful with regard to infrastructure and a capacity to influence status quo financial systems. And many were offloading the garbage onto Tron and Binance. So that is probably actually that's a quite reasonable observation, um, because that's what they wanted. Binance loved the crap out of Sushi, and Sushi's done. Sushi's done on Ethereum. It's the price is just collapsing, and so that's an interesting thing that I'm pretty sure is playing out. They're taking the garbage. Ethereum is going to clean itself up over the next couple of weeks and months. What I'm really excited for is obviously Q1, Q2, basically next year, and to see how Polkadot evolves. That's a big deal. Polkadot is very decentralized. Anyone who holds DOT can be a validator or delegate or nominate. Um, Delegating is for Cosmos. You delegate to a validator on Cosmos. You nominate if you're on Polkadot, or you validate as well. So that's for the relay chain. That's to provide governance for the ecosystem of blockchains. It's crazy what Polkadot is. Very big ambitions. Much broader in sophistication and scope and potential as compared to Ethereum, at least in its current incarnation. But man, there's so many projects on Polkadot. Keep an eye on the substrate chains. This to me, this is really uh, assets that you could acquire where the projects are really trying to build ecosystems. Crust, how do you like that? I mean, Crust and Plasm and Reef Finance. Plasm said they're working with Crust. Kala is there. You go. There's your Ren connection. Staffy is staking. This is a big deal. But so that's an interesting one. I wouldn't buy assets. I'm not into ICOs. I won't pay Ethereum to acquire any of these assets. So that's why the Plasm lock drop, which I was informed was initially done by Edgeware, was a big deal. That's a very novel concept for initial distribution of assets. There's clearly no vested interest. I mean, by doing so, the vested interest is to say I'm gonna bootstrap this ecosystem, not use it to acquire initial funding. So I've heard Plasm say the words of funding rounds. So Plasm, that's really cool. Plasm has acquired funding separate and apart from its token distribution. We didn't see that in 2017. And even if we did, I can't think of any of them off the top of my head. That's a big deal. So Plasm, the lock drop, you could still participate in the second lock drop, and no doubt the third one is coming sooner than later. Akala, you got to keep your eye on that bad boy. So those are the two that I got my eyes on because I can't spread too thin. You guys know my mantra, never spread too thin, never go all in. That is the deal. So while all of these have interesting characteristics and properties, particularly because they have substrate assets associated with them. And then you get into, obviously, the extent of the Polkadot ecosystem. Look, so everyone's going to be doing something with Polkadot. Look at that. That's really cool to see Origin Trail. Origin Trail's been around for a long time. They were an ICO in 2017. But these boys have obviously stuck around. Good for them. That's really good to see them there. Ren, of course. So I still question a lot of the ERC20 assets that are attaching themselves to the Polkadot name, particularly like Ken and Ohm. I'm not a fan of temporary assets that'll eventually be swapped out for real assets. You know, like you'll have temporary ERC20s to swap out for a mainnet release. That's just not something that really ever has caught my fancy. I'd rather wait for the damn mainnet release. Rio did a fundraising. Rio is apparently the substrate chain that Mantra DAO is using, to my knowledge. I don't know. All I know is Mantra DAO, the ERC20 asset is OM, and they've mentioned Rio Chain, which is a substrate blockchain, and clearly there's no relationship whatsoever between a substrate blockchain and an ERC20 asset. So how this all comes together either requires digging through white papers that I looked through the Mantra DAO white paper. I didn't see anything about that relationship. How does the ERC20 asset relate to the substrate blockchain? Where's the interoperability solution? So an interoperability solution usually requires a custodian, either centralized or decentralized. I'm actually quite curious. I need to look into how that interoperability uh, works for Polkadot. How assets can maybe travel cross chain. I don't know what that entails. To me, that's why Ren makes so much sense because you take your asset, you give it to the distributed, decentralized network of dark nodes, and they're like, hey, I got an asset. Here, you can mint this many ERC20s to represent the asset you gave us. So to me, Ren makes great sense as an interoperability solution. Um, I don't see how assets could travel cross chain without a custodian and a minted representation. At least that's what makes sense to me. Anyway, interestingly enough, it looks like the live chat is broken for this stream, and that's unfortunate because I wish I could see everyone. Oh, all right. Oh, I forgot to mention 12:25 tomorrow, 6 p.m. 6 p.m. Let's do it. We're going live with the Blocknet. I totally Arlen from the Blocknet, and we are going live tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to live stream this bad boy, and I'm sorry, I should have mentioned it earlier. I wanted to mention it after today's stream, but I didn't want people to just miss this stream, so maybe this was actually just a good time to mention it. So 6 p.m. tomorrow night, we're going to talk about the Blocknet, and you all know how I see the Blocknet fitting into the big picture. It has its place. It hasn't had the attention it deserves. And that, at some point, I think is inevitable to change because it's a superior technology to Infura. Not necessarily superior to Link, but it is at minimum competitive in functionality. It's definitely competitive in technology and what it does. That's crazy because Link is big, Blocknet tiny, and it does the same thing, or at least something comparable. So that's pretty cool. And we're going to talk about these topics. I want to talk about the Blocknet, and this is a great opportunity. I'm very happy and thankful that we're going to get a chance to talk about it. What's so interesting about Blocknet is it's one of the few UTXO assets that are still on my radar from all those years ago. I don't look into that many assets. As you guys see up here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10, 11, 12. I have 12 crypto assets that I'm looking at the charts. How about that? So that's not that many. If you start looking into, 50, 100, how are you going to manage it all? How do you manage the data? You spread too thin. You spread too thin. You need to reduce the quantity of assets you're looking at. Otherwise, you're taking on too much risk. You're never going to be able to process all of that data. So not only the technical data of the charts, but the fundamental data. How are you going to? It's very hard to understand the nuances of each of these projects, and the scope and the history and the relationships and the partners and clearly the technical properties of the blockchain or the protocol properties of the smart contracts that govern the ERC20 tokens or whatever. This is not trivial stuff, ladies and gentlemen. Never spread too thin and never go all in. You got 20, 30 assets in your bag, you probably spread too thin. That's just my opinion. I may be wrong, and everyone, most importantly, needs to come to their own conclusions about what they can handle. And if you feel overwhelmed, you need to take your foot off the damn gas pedal. You need to pull back and bite off bits that you can chew and process. Risk off, reset, go into Bitcoin, and then figure out what the hell you want to own. That's what everyone's doing right now. Look at this. I mean, if we got Celsius is an interesting one because I'm basically risk off in Bitcoin right now, and my Bitcoin position is itching for 8.6% yield. And between there's two centralized entities that are positioned to have access to my liquidity, which would be Celsius or BlockFi. I wouldn't trust the quantity of Bitcoin that I have in a decentralized entity as of yet, albeit I haven't really chosen to um, provide my liquidity to a centralized entity. So I'm kind of like just sitting on the sidelines with regard to getting yield on my Bitcoin. Um, I wonder what Pomp or Jason would say to that. But point being, I think things are changing. I'm always looking at all the information, and there's some crazy shit going on. Look at Tesla. This thing is just running. But check this out. Check this out. This thing's totally going to put in a top. You guys see this? So everyone's like, oh my God, it went from 320 to 460. And what if it stops here? And what if it does something like this? What if it does something like this? And then it goes boom. You know? Lower highs. That'd be interesting. This would be a double bottom. And then all of a sudden he could go like, whoop! No, I don't want to see that. These are my price targets here if anyone wants to rewind in the stream at a later point in time. These are my price targets, 17%, 36 and change, and 69% down. That is the only time I'd get a position. Otherwise, we are in extremely overinflated territory. This is something I would avoid until it comes back down to earth. All right, we're at 1231. Let's look at a couple of charts real quick. So Syscoin caught my eye because it's in more or less a very nice falling wedge position, formation, trend formation. So this looks really cool. Syscoin is something I've been meaning to talk about more. It is an L2 solution like Loopring. XDAI Stake is another one that's caught my eye. But Loopring's killing it. Look at that. 67.34% since September 20th. September 6th. Loopring, man, what did I get Loopring at? I got a nice position in Loopring. So 3, 4. I'm up over 400% on Loopring. Yeah, yeah, boy. Ooh. And not the smallest position either. Definitely not the biggest. The biggest gainer I got, the biggest single winner by far is Ren. I mean, man, that thing was, I had an 11 bagger on that bad boy. That's crazy. I'm going to watch it go down, and I'm going to watch it go all the way back up in the next couple of years. They got them bad boys locked up in dark nodes. So a lot of folks are talking about Ethereum pulling back, which means Bitcoin, the Ethereum Bitcoin chart. So if Ethereum versus Bitcoin pulls down, that means Bitcoin is going to outperform Ethereum. So I think that may be the case, actually. We got clearly a bit of a head and shoulders, more or less a head and shoulders top. And let's take the 4 hour. Did we break the 200 EMA to the downside? And look at that. On the 4 hour, we're below the 200 EMA on the downside. And the 200 EMA in the daily puts us at a 17.88% retrace, which means if you are worried and you want to risk off, this is where you move a good portion of your Ethereum position into Bitcoin. Is that what I did? No. No, I still have a fair amount of Ethereum. For me, I like to see about 10%. 10% Ethereum Bitcoin. 10% of my 10% of my Bitcoin position assigned to Ethereum. That makes me feel comfortable. Gold, check this out. Gold is in a sim triangle. Ooh. And coming off bullish momentum, this thing's going to break to the upside and blow past that 20 whatever, 2060, 2070 top. Woo! Everyone wants me to look at Digibyte. Unfortunately, Digibyte, I've redrawn it, and it was more or less a falling wedge, because this is a good hit right here. But it looks like it's breaking to the downside. Poor Digi. Hey, poor Digi. All right, I keep an eye on it. Digibyte is a forever bag because it's so old and so UTXO. It's delicious. Unfortunately, Bancor, nope, this is exit. I'm sorry. Your protocol properties are absolutely awe-inspiring, but technically this is very bearish right now. So RLC is kind of hovering on that support line. So this is big, risky territory. This could fall down. And if there's any risk off in the crypto markets, this is going to fall down real quick. Kyber also is below this multi-year orange trend line. So this is bearish territory in my opinion. And Ren has been getting hammered, albeit I think it's finally found support, as a couple of folks in the Telegram channels have pointed out. This looks pretty good. I rarely do charting actually on the candles. I like charting on the line. It keeps things simple. And I like to look at things more from a gut instinct than just a pure technical. It doesn't really hit the lines perfectly. But this looks really good actually. So someone pointed out this chart, and that is a good solid trend line on the daily. So it bottomed, but I did see this line chart. No, it wasn't so solid. There was a deviation. So, I don't know where Ren's going to go in the short term, but all I could say is if you could get a good buying opportunity, like for instance on the daily, if it broke this trend formation and you're trying to find support, which in my opinion would be this orange line right here, be about I think that's a 20-something% move to the downside. Yeah, about 22, 23. So if this breaks to the downside, that's a buy opportunity right there. That's when you buy 22% dip. Woo! So Acro, I'm almost out of everything right now. Everything that I can be out of, except I do have a stake position in Acro because I just consider it locked up. Relatively, like a 0.5% portfolio type thing. Very small. For the fun of it, Loopring is an old stake position. I couldn't buy it or sell it if I wanted to. Band is staking. Polkadot is nominating. Synthetics Network token is vesting in escrow. Acro is staking. A small Energy Web token, EWT position. Very small. I should probably increase that a little bit. That's about it, ladies and gentlemen. Always a pleasure. I wish I had my live chat going today. A lot of people probably have some thoughts. All right, let's see if we can get this fixed up tomorrow. I will be doing the stream at 12 noon. I will also be doing the 6 p.m. with Arlen from the Blocknet. That's going to be oh so awesome. So, today is Tuesday, 12:37 p.m. on September 15th. Thank you all for joining me. I wish you all a wonderful day, and I'm going to see you tomorrow. Y'all have a good one now. Peace.